Hey everybody, welcome to the Hurdy Burke Internet Broadcast Network. And today we cover small, medium business, Austin area. I've been doing this for over 4 or 5 years, 160 podcasts with local Austin business, a way for our potential people to find businesses that they need, they can use for their business services. And today I had the privilege of meeting with Jeff Kikel, who we're going to talk to with T-Werx CoWorking. But before we do that, we're going to have a brief message from our sponsor, Jerry's Garage, and we'll be right back.
Howdy, this is Todd Frank, owner of Jerry's Garage. We've been serving our customers since 1967. You know, vehicles have changed greatly over the years, but quality customer service and sound repairs have not. We've earned a great reputation with our clients. Check us out on Google and Yelp. So when you need repairs or maintenance on your gas or diesel vehicle, you'll call us. We work by appointment only and sometimes emergency. So our number is 512-255-7627. That number again, 512-255-7627. We look forward to earning your business at Jerry's Garage.
Okay, we're back. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Hey, Hurdy, thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, we get to reverse the process now, don't we? You get to be interviewed. Kind of a nice change.
I know it's a weird feeling because I'm used to doing the interviewing.
I completely get that, man. Thanks for taking time out of your day to let me put you on this podcast. And I guess because we're limited in time, if you don't mind, I'm going to reverse the question on you. Tell us a little bit about your process to get to CoWorking.
Well, I guess the best way I can explain it is I had written a book, and I'd written my first book, and I was trying to figure out a way to market the book. And I thought, maybe doing a podcast would make sense. And, then realized I'd actually never listened to a podcast ever, and decided I probably needed to do that before I actually did a podcast, and ended up basically going to Amazon, found a book on podcasting, and it was by a gentleman named John Lee Dumas, who has a very successful podcast called Entrepreneur on Fire. And I started listening to his podcast, and he interviews new entrepreneurs every day, and 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And throughout that process, I actually learned that there were all these cool entrepreneurs out there that were starting businesses, and I was working for somebody, and I said, I really don't want to do this anymore. I've realized that I was an entrepreneur working in the corporate world. And right about that same time, I'd gone to several co-working spaces in Austin, when co-working is a shared workspace, small businesses can work out of. And I started to realize, well, why don't we have anything like this in Cedar Park where I live? We've got lots of cool small businesses, but they don't really have a place to work besides, local coffee shops and restaurants. So I said, well, why don't I talk to somebody about doing this? And I'm friends with the mayor and several of the city council people. And I kept going to them and saying, why don't we have this? And they said, well, because nobody's ever done it. I finally found somebody stupid enough to do it, and that was me. I couldn't find anybody else dumb enough to do it, so I did it. And so I wasn't convinced that the concept would work, but that whole concept of going through entrepreneurial brainwashing, listening to Entrepreneur on Fire for about 2 months, made me think, and it was a lot of millennials created businesses, and they just think differently from the way I was taught when I went through business school. When you go through business school, they teach you, well, you go out, you create a product, then you take it to market, you test market it, and then, you mash a bunch of dollars into it, and then you see if the product works. Well, that's stupid, because it only works if you're a massive company. If you're a small business, you've only got one shot to get it right, or you might be out of business if you don't get your product right. So I knew this would be an expensive process if I opened this thing, and I decided, well, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to follow the process that a lot of these millennials had done. So what I did is I went out and I went on a tour with my former business partner, and looked at several co-working spaces to kind of get some ideas of what we would want to do and what we wouldn't want to do. And on the trip down, we actually came up with the name for the business. And it was really from an exercise of saying, what goes on at a co-working space? And, it's collaboration, there's a community that's there, there's teamwork of businesses working together. And then it became teamwork. T-Werx would be kind of a cool name. So while we were driving down there, I was in the passenger seat and I bought the URL t-werx.com because it was the only one that I could find that had a .com. Right. And, that's where the name was born in a car driving to South Austin. Came back, after visiting all those things, we had some ideas and I had some ideas in my head what I thought this would look like. Went online, created the logo, which we still use to this day on freelogomaker.com. Ended up with a logo that we still use as all of our branding. People think we're actually a franchise. And I created on Instapage a one-page landing page that was actually a template from an apartment complex. I just took the pictures of the apartment complex out, went and found a whole bunch of fake or pictures of other co-working spaces that sort of looked like they were one, put them into that Fako landing page. And for the first 8 months of our existence, that was actually our web page for the company. And then November of 2015, I decided I wanted to run a test marketing of it. And I spent $200 on a Facebook ad campaign over that week and went out onto Facebook and said, hey, we're thinking of opening up a co-working space, or I actually just kind of blasted it out there as if we existed already. Ended up with 2,530 sets of eyes that saw that ad. So we targeted pretty well. 800 of those people clicked through to my Fako website, and ended up 10 people actually gave me their information, because I had a little thing on there that said, if you'd like information, give me your information, give me your name and email. And 2 of those people work here today, and we're almost 2 years into business.
Obviously, there's challenges to putting this all together. Would you mind sharing briefly some of the challenges and some of the headaches you might have gone through as you were diving into this actual physical facility?
Well, I saw a statistic the other day that said that 80% of new businesses are actually franchises. So it's somebody else's passion, goal, idea, plan that you invest in and then, start a business. There's only about 20% of us crazy idiots that actually decide to do the whole thing by ourselves and create a brand by ourselves. So, I will say that it's much more difficult to do it, if you're going to create a brand, but you have a love and a passion for it more when you do that. So that was challenging because you have a non-recognizable name. One of the advantages we have, we're in one of the greatest co-working communities on the planet, but nobody had ever done co-working to the scale we do up in the Cedar Park area or really in the suburbs. So, one of the biggest challenges was from a financing perspective. One, from investors, I had to convince people that had no idea what a co-working space was, that this was a great idea. And then I had to go and get an SBA loan from the bank, and the bank does not understand the concept of how co-working, the mechanics of it work. They understand office space, but they don't understand how co-working works. And so trying to I literally went to 14 different banks, and I finally found one that was crazy enough to take a risk and do this, and he's about the only banker that would have been able to pull this off. Now today I've got bankers coming out my ears that would love to bank us on our next project because they see the results, basically selling air at the beginning.
Yeah, which a lot of businesses do, right? Because they've got a proof of concept, but they don't have a physical facility. So once you got that set up and they saw how it worked, that becomes the next easier step, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. Once they start to see success and they started to see the numbers, then it's like, oh my God, I didn't realize how good you are, you actually are doing. at that point, and what we did really well, and we'll do as we open our second facility, is we barrage social media, everything. I mean, I've never spent a dime on SEO. We have some of the best SEO on the website, or on Google. And it's just because we do so much. We publish so much content through video, through social media posts, through blogs. We're just constantly putting something out virtually, a couple times a day, but not in a obsessive, or not in an intrusive fashion. We just put out really good content multiple times a day, and Google loves us because of that.
Yeah, and I would say that you guys are kind of the benchmark for how you can succeed using organic search as opposed to paid search, because your content you put out so diverse and all the social platforms. So it makes total sense.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about actual T-Werx location center. What does it have? What does it have to offer?
Yep.
And how does it cater to the business that work inside the co-working facility?
Okay. Well, I always start with what our mission statement when we started this business was, and still is to this day, we want to help businesses start and grow in our community, stay and be successful in our community, and hire people locally. So that's the filter that I use for everything. So, from a space standpoint, we are a 5,500 square foot space up in the Cedar Park area that has open seating, so think coffee shop without, your next door neighbor sitting on top of you, outlets with free coffee and the best internet in town. We have dedicated desk space. So somebody that is wanting to have a space, can't quite afford an office yet, or don't really need a physical office, but they want their own desk to come to every day. That's what a dedicated desk is. And those folks have access to the facility 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then we have office space. So we have, about 120 square foot offices, can fit up to 2 people in there comfortably. And those folks are people that, hey, I really need a permanent office, but I don't need a full office. I don't need a full 1,200 square foot office that has, bathrooms and everything else. I really only need to rent the space that I need. It's my piece, and then I'll share in all the rest of it. We have conference rooms. We have a gigantic presentation room that can hold up to 50 people in it. We have, smaller meeting rooms as well that are available for rent for people outside as well as people inside, inside T-Werx family.
No, I was going to say, and also along with that, you guys have a built-in studio that you set up on Fridays, right?
So
that people can rent, but that's where you do all your interviews for your Entrepreneur Centrals and CoWorks, correct?
That's correct. So we do I do a weekly podcast called Entrepreneur Essentials, and it's available on YouTube, through our T-Werx CoWorking. It's T-Werx CoWorking, CoWorking. You could search by that, find our webpage, and we've got a whole channel just of the Entrepreneur Essentials videos that we've done. And we're cresting over, I think, 50 somewhere in here. And I interview just local entrepreneurs, and that space that we use and all that equipment, we also rent out. So for people that want to add video to their business they need to shoot some videos, we're probably the best value in town. You can find that information on our website. And that includes, some work with you as well, which I think is phenomenal, on helping, do some of the editing.
What I really like what you're doing is not only the Entrepreneur Centrals, but the way that you're including the nonprofits through your T-Werx. Can you explain the community works to us a little bit?
Sure. I mean, that was an element of our business from the very, very beginning. If you look at our original logo, the one that's trademarked, there's 3 components that are under the name T-Werx CoWorking, and that is collaboration, education, and community. So from the very, very beginning, one of our core values was we have to be part of the community. We have to be a shining example to the community of what the business world can do. And what I mean by that is there's a ton of nonprofits in our community that, these folks are good people. They toil on every day for not very much money, always trying to figure out how to help people. And they just don't get a whole lot of recognition. And we wanted to make sure that as a business community, we were, looking and focusing on our nonprofit community and other stuff that was going on. And so we founded what we call Community Works as one of our missions within T-Werx in general. And the reason we did that is, let's say you work for Dell or you work for a large company. They always have community programs where, you might have Dell go out and sponsor, a Habitat for Humanity, and they have, 1,000 employees that come out and help Habitat for Humanity. Well, a small little 1 or 2 person business, they can't have that much impact. They might be able to write a check, they might be able to go volunteer, but they don't really have an impact on the community. So what we wanted to do, since we're a community of small businesses, we wanted to do things in the community where we could draw all of these small businesses together and then go do an event or go do something or support a nonprofit. And, it could be as much as when I do these videos on Fridays, just highlighting a nonprofit that people may or may not even know about. But it's actually going out as business people and affecting the community and showing that your business has a heart, which, if you know anything about the millennial generation, like them or love them, they have a huge focus on wanting to understand where your heart of your business is. And if you do not show them a heart, guess what, folks? They are getting to the point where they're starting to make money and they're starting to have families, and they want to do business with businesses that show that they have a heart for the community, that they have a passion behind them. And if you don't show that to them, they're pretty much not going to do business with you, and you're not going to be in business in 10 years.
I know you're diving into another co-working facility, correct? It's in
Yes,
kind of the ground floor stages.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about, can you tell us anything about that? I guess I should ask first, or is this still secret?
No, it's the worst, best keep secret out there.
Okay.
We are opening a second location, so we're going to be the first local co-working space in the Austin area. So the first locally grown co-working space that opened a second location. There's WeWorks here, and those guys are the big corporate guys that open them like every block.
Yeah.
We are the first homegrown co-working space that's going to open a second location of size. So we're opening a 7,200 square foot location out in the 4 Points area, so out by River Place and Steiner Ranch. No competition in the area, horrendous traffic, which is absolutely what I love. No competition and just absolutely no reason to get on the road, and you can just stop at our co-working space and work there. We'll have more office space than we have at the current location. We'll have larger conference rooms, larger presentation rooms. We're also, between both sites, we've opened an incubator program. So we've got an incubator program that helps general businesses. We don't, we're not a tech incubator. We're not a medical incubator. We're trying to incubate businesses and teach people solid business skills to be successful. So we were already running that incubator program out of our Cedar Park location, but we were actually already bringing people into the program out in the 4 Points area, and helping. Once again, we're trying to help start and grow businesses in our communities. That's what our focus is, and we're going to do that through the education piece.
And so, Jeff, just on the fun side a little bit, I hope I don't put you on the spot, but tell me a little bit about a day with Jeff. What do you go through?
Well, fortunately, I have Cindy, who's my executive assistant, that basically runs my day for me. Basically, my day, I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Typically, I've got some kind of project that I work on right out of the gate. for the first, hour or so. And then once I'm done with that, I get ready for work. I'm in the office before 8 most days, and I start a process of meetings, either meetings, coaching sessions, trainings, whatever, that goes from 8 until 6 every day. Almost always I'm booked solid throughout the day. I don't like downtime. I don't like lunches where I don't work during lunch. And then I try and go home at night by 6 o'clock and be there with my wife and have dinner. And then I usually work a couple hours in the evening, catching up on some things that I didn't get to during the day, catching up on emails and everything else.
And I know you're an avid reader. Could you tell us what book you've kind of dug into lately, or what you're reading right now?
My absolute love of my life are really 2 books right now. One is called The Pumpkin Plan by Michael Michalowicz, which is probably one of the most well-written books that I've read in a long, long, long time. It's funny. He's awesome. And it really talks about how to identify your niche market and how to kind of cull that, the people that you're dealing with that aren't really your target customers, how to cull them out. The other book that I'm a real big fan of right now is the book called Traction. And I can't remember the gentleman's name that wrote that one, but it talks about the entrepreneur operating system. And that's something that I just absolutely have absorbed, and I've really started to use in a lot of my own coaching that I do with small businesses, as well as the incubator programs. We utilize the entrepreneur operating system.
And Jeff, another kind of fun question for you. What is one thing we don't know about Jeff?
The big one that most people don't know is I spent 5 years of my life as an Army Ranger.
Wow.
Lived all over the world, mostly in Central America in the late 80s and early 90s. So I jumped out of planes for a living. Always wanted to fly airplanes, and somehow I ended up jumping out of them instead. But yeah, that's a big one that people don't really know about me a lot of times because I don't usually talk about it.
Right. Jeff, thank you. Great podcast interview with you to kind of get an idea of what's going on. And I want to thank you for being on the Hurdy Burke Broadcast Network. It's always fun to talk to folks and dig in a little bit about what's going on in their business life. And I'm sure it helps others kind of go, wow, if he can do that, I can do it. So any final thoughts, sir?
No, man, I tell you what, what I would tell people is, if you're out there and you're listening and you've thought about starting a business and you thought, well, I've got a great idea, go out and do it. Try it. See if you can make it work. If you need help, there's tons of people in this town that can help you, from coaches to incubator programs to whatever. But get out there and do it. Don't think about it. Take action and get started, and you'll be surprised. Or you'll find out that it really wasn't what you wanted to do, and you'll stop beating yourself up about it.
Right. And Jeff, thank you again. And you can find Jeff online. Go to the T-Werx website, check them out. If you're a business in the Cedar Park area interested in coming in and looking at facilities, please come by. I think you have open Tuesdays. Is it still available?
Yeah, so we do CoWorking Tuesdays from 9 until noon. Every Tuesday, we open up to guests to come in. If you want to try out CoWorking, you've never done it before, and I'm completely convinced that Starbucks hates you because they don't stay there all day long. They can't make it more evident by putting uncomfortable chairs, small tables, and no outlets.
And keeping it really cold.
Yeah, and making it cold and really loud. So they can't tell you more that they don't want you there. We love you, and we want you to come in here. The temperature's comfortable. It's nice and quiet. You have comfortable office chairs, and coffee's included with the best internet in town.
Super. Jeff, thank you. This has been the Hurdy Burke Broadcast Network. And remember, we interview small, medium business for absolutely no charge. We want to get to know you. We want to know about your business. I have a super sponsor who's been with me, Jerry's Garage, for over 3 years. And Jeff, thank you for being on the show. And we'll see you guys around the corner next week on the Hurdy Burke Broadcast Network.